Hey everyone, welcome back to Rock the World with Kay and Michelle. I'm Kay from Kindly Neurodivergent with Kay.
Hi, and I'm Michelle Turner. I'm from Movement Lesson. We have joined forces. I'm all over the internet on YouTube. Kay's all over the internet on podcasts. So we bring to you this podcast called Rock the World with Kay and Michelle.
Today, we're diving into something that might totally shift the way you see your child's development, literally. We're talking about vision, but not just in terms of eyesight. We're exploring vision as a cognitive map. The experiences we discuss on this show are for educational purposes only. Please don't substitute them for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you notice a pause in today's conversation, don't worry. Sometimes we're just taking a second to process or reflect. If you've ever wondered why your child avoids eye contact, has trouble crawling, or gets overwhelmed in busy environments, this episode is going to connect some powerful dots. Here's something most people don't realize: babies aren't born seeing in the way we think they do. During the first month of life, they don't yet have purposeful vision. They're taking in light and movement, but their brains haven't started mapping the space around them. As their vision matures, it becomes more than just a sense, it becomes a system for understanding space. That's what we mean by a cognitive visual map. Think of it as your brain's GPS. It helps you figure out where you are in relation to other people, objects, and boundaries, like your caregiver's face, the floor beneath you, or a toy across the room. This kind of visual mapping is critical for movement, safety, attention, and learning.
That's right. Yes. Babies are not meant to have active muscles in any sense, including vision during the first period where they're adjusting to gravity, both prone and supine. In all directions, you can place your baby down, you can place a baby up, and they're not seeing. The act of seeing is needed for with muscles. And I don't think people realize that. And so when um in the first month, they're meant to be more neutral. If muscles engage during the first month in any part of the body, first of all, it's a big warning sign for possible delays, but also what that does, it takes away weight transfer, those transitional skills, and it now also takes away that neutrality. They're also not right-handed or left-handed at this stage, right? They're just responding to stimuli, and they're doing it from all their senses before they start coming in together. And that's what's really important. Just so you know, I'm a top vision specialist for functional vision, for vision and movement. I have quite a few books out on vision. I've presented on vision because my son, when he got sick, became legally blind. We didn't know what the sickness was, but he got Haemophilus influenza and staph behind the base of his eyes into the base of his brain. So all of this was infected, and so and the they didn't find it for 3 years. So he was legally blind. He started out in the baby program at Foundation for Blind, and he started first year preschool at Foundation for Blind. He had cortical visual impairment. He still does, but he was at a 2-3. Now he's at a 10. And so when I knew back then, if I just improved his vision, I can improve everything. Because vision also connects all your senses. If I talk about spaghetti, you suddenly think of spaghetti. You can see spaghetti in your head. You might smell the spaghetti, but vision really is our anchor for many things. And the visual development is very crucial. But also, what people don't realize, you cannot develop physically if your eyes aren't developing at the same level. It's all in this synchronized manner. When you converge, coming to midline, which we'll talk about, let's say you converge with your eyes, but you're fine in your gross motor skills. And you can't have one without the other. So, a lot of times, too, when we talk about development, if you're looking for walking, let's say, but your eyes can't go from short vision to long vision, well, you're not going to look down the hallway, and therefore walking is going to be much more difficult. And also, vision can go backwards. So, like if I'm just spinning around on my chair here, right, my vision is going forward, but it's also pulled backwards. That's very difficult for a child with developmental delays or global delays. And you can see those functional issues really creep into play.
What does level 2 or 10 mean?
Oh, so with cortical visual impairment, sorry about that. It goes from Dr. Roman Lansky developed a CVI scale. I have a different CVA scale, but they're a little bit similar. But the main CVI scale is 0 to 10. 10 actually being the best if you have cortical vision impairment, and 0 or 1 being the worst. So my son was legally blind. So he wasn't blind that he had no vision. He had some vision, but he was not able to see and process properly.
Whoa. Oh.
So what happened? He got vaccinated at 13 months and he got Haemophilus influenza from the vaccine, and then the vaccine set into his brain in head. Okay, sorry.
What helped?
Oh gosh, what helped for his vision? First of all, A, getting him medically stable, that took years, but also two, realizing that processing. Some people in like again in functional vision, this background might be too environmentally complex. What does that mean? If I try to teach you that these are glasses, right? Can you see them really well? Or do you see them better when I put them on my face? So some kiddos maybe can handle the environmental complexity of the house, but not going outside. Let's say too much grass, trees. So you have to understand, is your child able to handle environmental complexities? Now it's the structure of the eyes. Do they need glasses? Do they just need time processing? Is there abnormalities in the alignment of the eyes where you don't need glasses, but you need help with the alignment? That structure. And then there could be neurological, where the brain is actually either damaged or the transmission from the eyes to the brain is has time processing. So it could be one of all three, or it could be three of all three. So, and then that could be an issue. So you need to really, and this is what hopefully this podcast will cover a bit, you've got to get to know your child, how they see, because the big thing about vision for a child, there's no comparison. So if they don't see well, they're not going to be like, Mom, if only I could see that ball, I can tell you that it's red. They don't do things like that. Now I'm getting old, so I know when I go to read a menu, let's say, okay, I better get out my reading glasses because I used to be able to see that small and now I can't. I have comparison, right? Or like when you take off your glasses, but a child and even a 10-year-old will only know what they notice, especially with vision. I've actually been with a 20-year-old and we were looking for something. I said, oh, it's right over there. And he goes, how do you know? And I said, well, there's a sign. And he's like, what sign? And I'm like, so you can't see this sign, like I pointed out. And he's like, well, nobody can see past a block. And I'm like, I can see 5 miles from here. I have very good long vision. So again, not knowing if sight can really come into play. You also can tell too if your child might have vision issues if they're very good, let's say colors, but not good at the object. Because even if I have cross-eyed or a blurry vision, I still might know something, let's say, is red, right? But I'm not going to know that I have two cars. I might think I have four cars, or I don't even know it's a car because I don't see it well. So you think your child's really smart, which they are, because everyone's smart with or without glasses, but they just can't do the things that they would normally do. So again, learning that your child is not going to come to you, but you start either seeing the development, the vision, or both. And that's what you work on.
What's even more fascinating is that vision and movement are completely connected. When your child lifts their head, rolls over, or even shifts their eyes while breathing, they're starting to build that map of the world. Vision helps organize movement, and movement helps clarify vision. Let's take tummy time, for example. We think of it as building neck strength, but it's also where your baby starts using their eyes and head together. That coordination is what prepares the body to crawl, reach, and eventually walk. Vision, gravity, touch, and balance are constantly communicating. It's like your child is learning the language of space, one movement at a time.
Right. When we're looking at the eye itself, the eye is not perfectly round. It has the cornea. The cornea comes out a bit. Well, that area, the eye is heavier. So even just the progression, let's say into tummy time, right? My eyes are hanging here. I should be able to have my eyes here, and my head moves around the eyes, right? But as I go to move this way, it doesn't mean because my eyes are heavier that they're falling down. This is what you might see, let's say, in a lazy eye. A lot of people think that that's typical in babies. I don't agree. So when they're tired, yes, a baby, even your eyes can get out of alignment. But in general, the eye should not be that all the time. But again, you need to evaluate the child. So if your child's not going into milestones, if your child has visual alignment issues, no different than your car's being out of alignment. You can have $1 million car, but if you have one tire out of alignment, you're not going to get the enjoyment out of the car. Your car will break down sooner. The eyes are very similar. It really is again your balance. And again, that balance of a vestibular this way, as well as again, I should be able to have my eyes straight at and move my head around, or I can have my head straight and move my eyes around. And that individuality of eyes comes about 10 and a half to 12 months. So you see children too that are having trouble walking, usually they have tunnel vision and they're trying to walk like this versus being able to walk and look around, go look at mommy and daddy and come back. Those eyes should is a avenue of that intelligence of movement, not necessarily neural intelligence. I'm talking about just that intelligence of movement, crossing midline. And so you see vision at 2 months, they should start looking at you. And then they go into rolling over. Rolling over is essential because now I'm crossing visual midline, but I'm also crossing my body's midlines, right? But then the big one, early convergence, around 4.5 months. This is when a child is grabbing their feet. Their feet and hands and feet all come together, but so do their eyes. So I have convergence of my eyes. It means your eyes come in together. I have convergence of my fine motor skills. My hands come together, and convergence of my feet or my gross motor skills because my feet come together. And now I go from the convergence, and now I can cross midline. Grabbing the feet is a very big, but overlooked milestone. If your child's not grabbing their feet, are we looking at there's a vision issue? Because if the vision's not converging, the hands can't converge, and so on. And that's where you start. Again, you can get your Sherlock Holmes hat out on development. And then the next big one, about 5.5 months, your baby can sit, independent sitting, and it helps your vision go from an object to you and back again. They're learning active passive convergence, and again, that crossing midline.
And is it different for CP?
Oh, absolutely. So let's say for cerebral palsy, for that you're looking at again structure, which is more structure of the body, and range. Now, a lot of people think again when the vision's off for cerebral palsy, it's due to abnormalities or damage to the brain. That's not necessarily the case. Now, your body is so smart. Let's say if I go to look this way, and let's say you're going to lose your balance. This is where ataxia and dystonia come into play. Yeah. Right? So instead of balancing through your pelvis or through your vision, right? You're like putting me on a skateboard. What would I do? I would go like this. right? And so that's why babies aren't born with ataxia or dystonia, but they can develop the balance issues. But if I go to look this way and this way, I'm not worried about falling down. Now, someone with cerebral palsy might look this way and they're going to fall down. It could be,
Uh,
right? It could be because their hip sublux. So now that doesn't mean you're not smart or anything, but guess what? You're going to protect your balance versus looking. And so if it means over here you hear a bang, right? And this, I fall or lose my balance. Well, I'm not going to look. Or your mom or teacher can be calling. I've actually seen children, instead of looking this way, they'll go all the way around backwards just to see it this way because that's safer for them. And so a lot of people mistake that for reflex integration and such. No, you're so smart. You're saying, I don't want to fall down. I don't want to lose my balance. I will find another way to do it. Those deviations of intelligence are also deviations, though, in your milestones. The vision will prevail. And this is where I say, if you change or make the vision stronger, you make the rest of the body stronger.
Startle reflex.
I don't really believe in the startle reflex. The moral is available because you're opposing gravity in all directions. It goes off of your gravitational reflexes. But yes, a startle is real. If there's a tiger suddenly in my room, I'm going to startle. I'm not going to say it's a reflex issue, right? If but to I think not speak highly of someone by saying, "Oh, they look this way, they have a startle." No, this is I'm going to lose my balance. That's intelligence. There's a difference. Startle is again, I have danger, there's suddenly a fire, but right now if my office was on fire, everybody would want marshmallows. They're not going, "Oh my gosh." So that's where you have to look at again to assume it's startle, or is it vision? I'll check out vision way faster than I'll check out what the startle is. It gives you better ideas of what's going on and how to help your child.
Let's take a moment to talk about what this actually looks like for families. So many parents we work with have been taught to wait and see. Maybe their child isn't making eye contact, isn't reaching for toys, or just seems disengaged. And even though their gut is telling them something's not right, they're often reassured that it's nothing. But then they begin exploring movement-based approaches, strategies that activate visual mapping through head positioning, tracking, and rotation, and suddenly, something shifts. The child starts engaging. They follow faces. They become more aware of their surroundings. It's not just about achieving milestones, it's about helping the brain make sense of the body and space. Michelle, I know you've seen this over and over again. Do you want to share a story or example of how vision-based movement has opened up a breakthrough for one of your clients?
Well, I see this all the time. First of all, more so even when I do free Facebook Live group reviews. I do free Facebook video reviews, as you know. Um, and it's the hardest thing to convince parents of because they think because oh, like this, I'm looking. Well, this is directionality. I can't see you. I'm sort of looking through you. Now, this, now I'm looking at you. I have convergence. But not everybody's trained to see that, especially a parent. What parent is told that they need to teach their child how to see? That's a big, big step. It's easier to say I have to teach my child how to walk versus teaching my child how to see. But my son should be the poster child. My son was legally blind. I had to get him medically stable. I get that. But just because I got him medically stable and it wasn't till he was 4 that they found him to be so sick. He has no immune system to bacteria. He does IVIG. He's chronic. He's had 30 surgeries, right? His goal at 4 was to say mom and dad. My son just graduated from ASU with honors with 2.5 degrees, including a minor in Russian. So this child at 4 couldn't say mom. It can is almost fluent in Russian. I just saw his presentation that he did for his finals, all in Russian. the presentation's in Russian, his conversation's all in Russian. It's wild.
Mhm.
Now, because of my son's vision, he'll probably never drive a car. I'm okay with that. Of all the things I don't have, he can live independently, he rides a bicycle, he does all that. I just don't think his vision is up to that. Like sometimes even crossing the street, he still is like I'm like, Graham, car. It's like, oh, he just doesn't have that. He has a hard time even seeing my car. Like, if I have two cars, like he doesn't know to compare or doing all of that. He still has quirks in his vision, let's say. But my son's not legally blind. He's functioning. He goes to college. He does all of those things. He's not in special education, so forth. I actually wrote the chancellor, president of ASU, and just said, you don't know my son, but both my boys have been so successful thanks to the education there. And again, as you know, we covered this in other podcast. Um, please, guys, just because you're differently abled, neurodivergent, you can go on and on. There are so many schools out there that will meet your needs, and I can't stress that enough. It's not just what I've done for my son, it's a team approach. But when a baby is only looking at you with directionality, and there's videos of me way back when, and saying, "There's Michelle with the magic button," usually right behind the diaphragm, especially if a baby didn't get their first breath. They don't have that ability to converge in the breath, and therefore the convergence of the vision, and seeing vision early and helping. And again, sometimes they just need a pair of glasses. But this is too, guys, even though your child's had a visual examination, you've got to learn to read the reports. Lots of times it says right on the reports because the parent hears their eyes are fine, but that's usually the health of the eye, the optic nerve, and the retina. What they're not hearing is, which it says on the report, child was unable to be examined. Come back in a year. So you're telling me right here on this report, I couldn't examine the child, but yet come back in a year. Or a lot of doctors don't believe, and I'm not saying all of them, believe in glasses, let's say under two, the eyes should just get stronger. If your child's not developing because they don't have vision and they need glasses, they need glasses. And it really is hard to buck up against a doctor that has made up their mind and you're going with the doctor, which I understand that. But when your report clearly sees a 3 or axis, which should be at a 90, now at 180. Now again, you're just going to say, I have no idea what Michelle's talking about. I get that, and you shouldn't. But when it comes to your child's vision, especially if any of these symptoms are coming into play, not looking at you properly, avoiding eye contact, we'll talk about it going flirting with autism and so forth, developmental delays, not getting language skills. I had a 5-year-old, beautiful girl in India, and it finally got to a good eye doctor in Mumbai. The parents were from Chennai, and if you're from there, Chennai's on one side of the country, Mumbai's on the other. But I have a really good ophthalmologist in Mumbai that I work with, and he's cute. He goes, I give reports that Michelle Turner likes to see. Um, and she finally got glasses. Her glasses script was like a 5, and she suddenly had language within 20 minutes. And her dad's crying. And he's like, my daughter can talk. And I'm like, she can see. We're talking, and she just didn't know what anything meant because at a level 5, you need glasses. You're just seeing shapes and colors at that point. And to suddenly see her go, oh, that's an apple. Oh, that's a car. Like it was like all these switches were going out. And guys, she still has severe cerebral palsy and has to be held for support and stuff, but she can see. And every child has a right to see, and it's really important.
He can't separate cars he sees.
Yeah, Graham still has issues with depth perception issues. So one of the things is like you're taught in math, a car passes a tree and a car passes a house, let's say. And let's say it took 10 seconds. So mathematically, you can say that car is driving 30 miles an hour because it took him 10 seconds to go from. Nobody drives like that. What we do is we feel convergence. So when something's coming at us, even a ball, and this is again gets confused with startle reflex. If you don't converge well, if I throw a ball at you, you might be like, because you don't want to get hit in the face, right? That's intelligence. But when something's coming at you fast, a convergence, right? If I'm driving, I know I can't, let's say, make a left in front of this car because I feel a force in my eyes. This car is coming fast. My eyes are converging fast. So I can judge. I might not be able to say, oh, he's driving 62 miles an hour, but I know I do not have enough time with his speed to safely proceed into his lane. So I wait for him to pass, or my eyes aren't feeling a force of convergence. I'm like, okay, he's far away. I can go. But if you're not good at those forces of movement, right, this is where you can be impaired. The eyes are fine per se, but the function of the eyes aren't giving the neural input that you're looking for, which is speed of a car or speed of a ball or depth perception or all of the above. So knowing that my child has these issues, I'm not going to sit here and force him to drive a car.
No.
There's enough self-driving cars around here in Uber, and he's fine. He manages. That doesn't mean he can't work because he doesn't drive. He has a bicycle, so he will always have that independence. And then now with Uber and everything, and he can order all that stuff just fine. And so that's just, I'm not going to worry about it.
Let's talk about what to look for, because sometimes the signs are subtle and they're easy to miss. Does your child always look to one side? Do they avoid eye contact, or do their eyes seem to drift or work separately? Maybe they seem to concentrate deeply on one thing, but completely miss what's going on around them. These can look like personality traits or behavior quirks, but they're often signs of visual processing difficulties.
Again, since your child can't tell you, again, like they might be sitting here like this all the time. So it could be that they're right eye dominant. Uh, Especially if you see the eye drifting in. From the beginning, can they roll over to one side, not to the other? Are they more likely to play over here? Again, a baby, an infant, toddler, total neutrality with the way they're responding to stimuli, because that's what all they're doing. They're responding to stimuli. And two, you'll start to see in the more progressive milestones, which include locomotion, are they crawling? Well, they don't do anything that's difficult or that'll hurt them. So they don't see the ball over there. They're not crawling to it. They're just happy here. I've seen it where a ball goes to go off my table. Do they have visual memory? That should start to appear around 5 months of age, that peekaboo. But I really have to stress with autism, please, 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 if you feel your child has autism or any of the what they call behavioral disorders, please check vision, please, and make sure they do a retinoscopy, which is a manual examination. A lot of visual examinations, they'll prompt with a card and go, look at the tree. And a child, again, autism, echolalic says, tree. Oh, they see it. No, they just repeated what you said, so they didn't see it per se. The retinoscopy is just a manual examination of the eyes. A lot of autism mimics what my son has, cortical visual impairment. Now, my son has both autism and cortical visual impairment, but again, I had to work much harder, I feel, on his vision than I did with him being autistic. And so with the autism, he likes to be practical. There's no gray, black and white, that kind of thing. It's a language stacking system, but with the vision, I had to work with him on that much more diligently for him to prevail out of everything that he was going through.
Oh.
Right? But also too, like in your case, if you have the eyes are muscles, any observation you have, low tone, high tone, of muscles, neuromuscular condition with your child, or the eyes are muscles, please, please, please get them checked. And also, despite your child having trauma or no trauma, look at your family tree. Eyes are very hereditary. So if you and your partner have eyes, bad eyes, or especially in astigmatism, there's a good chance that your child might just have your eyes. It has nothing to do. Vision doesn't necessarily have anything to do with any kind of trauma, but they can go hand in hand. And I will say one more thing too. Sorry, I know you're typing. Strabismus, the eye turning in. I can't stress enough that the vision is the only place where the brain will turn off an eye. And so when the eye is turning in, usually by the age 5, there's a good chance of the brain actually losing the vision in that eye. And so you don't want to take that lightly.
I didn't realize it was genetic.
Oh yeah, yeah. Just like you having blue eyes, or I have blue eyes. You can tell I have the German blue. Very, very genetic eyes are, and especially too, if you do, that's when I usually tell parents too, if they let's say they both have glasses and they fight, not fight, but they don't understand why their child might need glasses, let's say. And I said, listen, and I look at them, I said, you probably had your glasses since you're about 14, and they'll correct me. Oh yeah, 12. Okay, I was close. I said, what was the first thing you said when you got those glasses? And they look, I said, you should have had them sooner. Oh, yeah, yeah. I realized how bad my eyes are when I got my first pair of glasses. Exactly. That kind of conversation you didn't have with your parents, and that's the same what's going on with your child. But again, too, midlines are the anchors for all neural development. It's a really good telltale sign. Again, if there's problems, well, vision has midlines, and if there's indications or problems with the visual midlines, you're going to have midline disruption, usually within the body. Like ADD has a broken midline consequences within the sternum, and you'll see the vision. It has to dart a lot or see with the body versus having that individuality because of the midline breakdown.
And this is why it's so important to recognize vision as a processing and movement issue, not just something we check off in a pediatrician's office. Start
Oh,
by observing. Watch
yes.
how your child looks at things. Are their eyes moving together? Can they follow something across a room, or do they lose track? Create opportunities to engage vision through movement. Use mirrors. Move your face slowly side to side while your child watches you. Let them track toys, but keep it slow and intentional. And most importantly, don't force eye contact. Create moments of connection. That's where the magic happens.
It is where the magic happens. Honestly, for a baby, once they start to see around the 1 month level, their best thing ever is your face. You should be able to look. Now they're babies, they're going to look away, but they're going to come back. They really, but again, if that's already a complaint, my child just doesn't seem to want to look at me, though I'll hear. Just like when they say they hate tummy time. There's no preference, guys. There's no preference. They want to hear you. Another thing to look at too is when you do try to talk to them or see them, do they offer an ear? So in other words, they don't have visual processing, they're going to auditory processing. And so with my son being blind for a long time, people today still say, well, he's not paying attention. No, my son's paying attention. But if he's learning something new, he goes ears first. So it looks like he's just ignored you. But he's going because that's what he did as a kid. This is how he knows to learn. Now, once he processes once auditorily, then he'll come around and then give you his visual attention. But still to this day, the hardest thing for him to look at is my face. He'll look towards me and around me, and you can see he's trying because his head's doing this, but he can't just look at me in the eyes, and that's okay. So I cannot stress retinoscopy. That's a manual examination. It's an old school examination, but honestly, I think every child should have a retinoscopy. This is not something done at school where they're like, follow the bouncing ball. Oh, his eyes are fine. No, they did not physically look at the eyes. Know your reports. I do like light patching if you're having problems. I can show you that real quick. Light patching, right? Hand over the eye, just to do your own examination for functional vision. If you put your hand over the one eye, does your child do something like this, right? Now, if vision is difficult, right, what they're trying to do is like, get off me because I want to see with both eyes. But if you're doing the other hand, let's say, and the child still can maintain vision, this means that this eye is stronger, right? And that's one way of looking at things, right? And you want to have it more equal. Please, very little black and white or dark room. I don't like, most children don't have that severe visual immaturity. A dark room has no depth perception. It's not real. We don't go around in dark rooms. It gives it a very high contrast. I know it's very popular over social media, but you want to get that again. If I just do something like this, guys, you're looking at me. I don't have to ask you to look at my fingers or do anything like that. You're looking at me. And very little black and white. The problem is with black and white is babies become like moss. They can look at it, but then they can't turn away. And I don't want that kind of vision either. And unfortunately, we do a lot of mobiles and sheets and this. They go to bed, they're supposed to be going to sleep, and you've got black and white, and they're just like, whoa, it's too much information. Look at your child's visual report, have it explained. If not, post it onto my group. I'll look at it. I'm not a doctor, but I look at the function of the vision, and that's really important, and the movement around vision.
And if something feels off, don't wait. Ask for a functional vision evaluation. A standard eye chart won't pick up on how your child is processing visual information.
Right. Kay was great here. She just patched both of her eyes just to check me out. But what could have been done is then I come in. First of all, I know she wears glasses sometimes. Do we do it with or without glasses? And with glasses, again, is a visual comparison. But in her situation and your situation where patching would be brilliant, because when let's say I'm right dominant. Most people at adulthood have a dominant eye, right? And if I just patched, right, and did that, now my brain's saying, wow, I don't have any clutter. This is pretty good to see. And let's say my left eye is a little bit weaker, which technically it is, right? That's when the brain can compare to and it starts to improve. Knowing if your child needs muscles worked on and so forth. Again, the eyes are muscles, but also too, if your child is quite severe, a little vision goes a long way. Please, please, please. If they some kids can time out and vision just in 2 minutes. And you'll see this. When you hear words like, oh, they're getting bored. No, this is the only way. They can't just do this like, Mom, I'm done. They will visually ignore you. And you need to respect that, but still work on that. These are all things of function. How they process neurologically. Do they need to be things like a little bit slower or like what they do in school? My son might have been in school, but for tests, maybe they took him out. Again, not as stimulating that he could process differently. These depend on your child as you get to know their vision.
So, to wrap up today's episode, vision is more than what your child sees. It's how they understand the world, how they feel safe in it, and how they begin to interact with everything and everyone around them. And when you support that system early, you're giving your child the best shot at moving, learning, and thriving. We're continuing this conversation in our next few episodes where we'll explore functional breath and regulation rotational milestones, and why skipping them matters and how the infant motion sensor can help with early detection before delays show up on milestone charts.
And I really want to stress, if your child is presenting at all with a neuromuscular condition, if you have any concerns for their development, if you have hereditary conversations, please, please, please see a pediatric ophthalmologist and get a retinoscopy. But most of all, get the report and understand what was said to make sure that your child is ready to go into the different stages of development.
As always, you can find more resources at movementlesson.academy, or head over to Michelle's Facebook group, where parents and professionals connect and support one another. Thanks for being here with us today. Share this with a parent who needs it, And we'll catch you next time on Rock the World with Kay and Michelle.
Yes, thank you so much. And also, please, at movementlesson.academy, I have a free course called Vision in Your Child, and it actually has a free PDF in it that shows you how to have a successful ophthalmology appointment. Vision is a big passion of mine. Yes, I do offer courses and books, but at the same time, I have a lot of free information here on YouTube because no parent should go through what I've gone through, especially when it comes to vision. So we're here to help you. If you have any questions about all this, let us know, and we are happy to answer them and include them maybe in the next podcast or do a podcast around the questions. Thank you.